Yeah, on the login page, when you get to the login page, now look at what happened here. We set up Google authentication. We say to Google that once we click the login button, please authenticate this user. Why? What do we mean by that? Authenticate them by using their email, Google email address. So you don't have to do a lot, maybe like sign up. They don't really have to sign up. All you need to do is sign up with your Gmail account, which makes it easier for the user to be a part of the community or be a part of your application. So what happened here, we said on click on the button, on click on the login, on the sign in clear button, said on click to do this. There's a line of code there, right? Which is this line of code. We said hot. Hot already is from Firebase. Oh, okay, now let me show you where the hot is coming from, this hot. The Firebase here, we already said const hot when we set up this Firebase. We said, because we already set up that Google should authenticate our users, right? So we now say auth, it's equals to firebase.auth. Auth is actually a function, right? So we already store that functionality linking as in from Firebase in this variable. So once we export this, now we're already exporting it here. Once we export it, we import it here, right? So we can use it in our login. Now we said, okay, when you click on that button, what will happen is please use a pop-up, sign in with a pop-up, which is when you click that button, that is when you have that little window that came up and you choose whatever you want to choose there, right? So once you have that, we're catching an error. Basically, we know that if you don't have an account with Google, you're not going to have any account written there, right? Google is going to even tell you to actually open a Gmail account to be able to use this application. So if you have an account with Google, it makes it easier. So we don't need to catch the response now. All we need to catch is if there's an error, please tell us what the error is, which is send us an error message. But if the user has an account with Google, please, we need that account, we need that information. So once we have that information, where do we use the information? We go to our app and look at app here. App here is saying that on login, we will now use a use effect. Use effect is a hook, actually, is a hook in React. So use effect is what a use effect does is that it renders a page, or it carry out a functionality, but it depends on something. It needs a value to carry out the functionality. It runs only one. If you don't declare a parameter to work with, it only runs once. But if you declare that a dependency, okay, use effect, please run when this dependency has a change in state, which is what we have here. So we are depending on the dispatch. Whenever dispatch happens, please use effect, run this line of codes again. What does it mean? Okay, we now say if there's a user auth, like maybe from Google, there's a user from Google, please dispatch do this. Set my login information, login parameters, change the state of my login, which is save this in my login in my backend. Save it in my database rather. UID, the photo, the email, the display name, and yeah, basically that is it. This line was actually confusing, but I get it now. The display name. Where does it save it? It saves it in our Redux store. It saves it in our Redux store because it fires it straight to our Redux store. And what is firing it to is what? Is our if our use lines, because if you have here, we actually have our login here from our use lines. We're using it here now to set up, to update the state. So we bring it in here to now use dispatch to update the state. So dispatch takes this information into the Redux store, and the reducer in the Redux store does what? Does the magic, resetting the state into the new and current state, which is with the new and current information. So once that happens, our app is loaded, and we already said here that if there's there's a line of code here that says if there's a user, if there's a user, please render our slide bar, our side nav, our sidebar, and our chat. Basically render our application. But if there's no user, please render a login page, which is what? Go back to login page. So once, and remember my previous video actually spoke about how if there's a user name and password, please render our application. But if there's no user name and password, please render our login page. The same thing is happening here also. It's just a conditional statement you give to the app, you give, and it follows it using a ternary operator. Simple. And this line of code what gives us different 2 pages. Either if this is happening, do this. If this is not happening, then do this. It's as simple as that. So that is it, and we have this information. Once we log in, that happens. That happens. Like, boom, log out, right? So look at it now. From the login page, this is the code, right? For this page, this is the code right here. So once I click on this button, which is this button, right? Once I click it, what happens? This function, this line of code runs. This sign-in code runs. And what does it happen? As I click it, see, alt.signin with pop-up, which is the pop-up right here, right? And now there's the account, right? So it's not going to throw me an error. So if I click a user, what happens? What happens? It render my page now. So when I click a user, now this has been done, right? But we need to catch this action somewhere. We go to app, and in our application, like I said again, we are going to use use effects, which is only going to render when there's a dispatch action going on. It's because that is our dependency. So once we have a new user, our dispatch swings into action, right? And use effect here is only listening for user. Once it notices that the user is in action, so it knows that the dispatch is in action, what does it do? It carry out this information. And our alt state change, look at it, because it's a change state in our alt. Our alt before was none, there's no user. So alt user, now we have alt user, right? So it takes this parameter alt user and it carries out this information. If there's a alt user, please dispatch this information to our login, which is what? To our user slice rather, because that's where we have our login. And it change the state of the state of the user from null to what? To the new user. And we have this page render, and it said already here, this line of code already said, if there's a user, please render this information. No, if there's no user, please render the login page. It's as simple as that. And this is what we have here, right here. So now we have our app live on the red, right? We've done our Google authentication and it already logged us in, which is brilliant, right? So how do we manage our user app? App slice rather. App slice basically simple. Once there's a new user ID and username, channel ID and channel name, please update our channel info in our Redux store. This is what this line of code does here, because a reducer listens to that and it renders everything and it changes our state. Boom, it's done, and we have all these things here, right? And our message, basically when you type it here, a state takes it in. So let me explain with the application and with the code. So when we go to message, what happened in our message? Fine, we need 3 things. We need a picture, we need the name, and we need the message, and we need the timestamp. 4 things actually, but let's just say 3 things because Avatar is already taking care of the user photo. So since we already have a user which logged in from the Google authentication, so we already have it in our in our state, in our use slice. It's already in our state. So all we need to do is, since our message is rendered in our chat, this is here. I'm just trying to reenact these things so that you can understand what I'm trying to do here. In our chat, we are rendering our message here. And we already said in our message, our message is actually an array. Because when it gets to the back, which is database, it's an array because we keep creating messages. So we're going to go into an array. So we said, go through the messages in our database, which is here. Look at it here. We say const. Okay, now we use in our chat here, we use effects and we use a function. We say our choose effects, you only listen to be dependent on our channel ID. In our channel ID, which is this channel, let's say we are in this channel now. When we're in this channel, if there's a message in that channel, which is what, okay, this is it. Sorry, so let me go. Let me retract back. Use effect only does what here? Only listens to a change if there's an update in our channel ID. Because it's also an array. If there's an update in our channel ID, please and please do something. Look at what we have here. Const channel ID, use selector. So we use that to get our, we'll pull our channel information from our database, because once we create a channel ID here from this button, it goes straight to our database. It doesn't come to our UI. It goes straight to our database. So we need to pull it from our database to our UI. So which we do here. Once there's a new information, once there's a new channel created, it goes to our database, but we need to render it on our UI, right? So this use effect does that for us. And it says, what does it say? It's simple. It said, if there's a channel ID, please go to our database, go to our collection, go to the channel, go to the doc, and get the user ID, channel ID. Then go to the collection again, because in the channel ID we have collections of messages, right? Go to the messages and display them by order. And we're using timestamp to display by order in a descending order. That's why you have our new message showing at the top, not at the bottom. That's just the style we want to use here. So on snapshot means every instance of in our back database, please render every instant. If there's a change, then render the present instant, the present state of our data, of our back database, render it on the UI, which is what on snapshot does for us here. So this code runs when there's a channel change or there's an update in channel. That's it. It keeps giving us that information. And when there's an update channel, means that when there's maybe in a channel there's an update, meaning there's a message that is dropping down. So render, keep rendering the messages. Let's see it on the UI. That is it, use state. And also when we click enter button, which is the button which is we didn't actually enable here. Let me just show you the button. Where is the button? Here, this button, we didn't enable it because we use something called disable, so that we can just press enter on the keyboard and it goes. So when you on that click on that button, you render this information, this line of code, like render this line of code. And what does it say? Listen to an event, you present default, because it's a form, right? You present default. And remember that when we enter this information here, it has it to our database, doesn't actually render it here. It falls from here, it goes go to our database before coming down here. That is what happens. So it goes to database and it stores it in the message collection. You see had here, it had it by timestamp, had the message, had everything, and it set the input to empty again, empty strings. So it goes to the database. How do we pull it down to the actual screen? This is how we pull it here. Look at it. We say for every message, map through the messages, and each message will return this message component, and we go deep into the message component. We see the structure here, which is what our timestamp has been passed down as a prop drill to this component, and we now say put it at a particular place in our paragraph. Render the message in our timestamp. Render timestamp in our name, username, and display username. In our avatar, render the photo. Simple as just that simple, and it does that for us. And that is how when we type here now, when we type here, say wow. Let's just say wow. Once we click enter, it doesn't come here straight. Listen, it doesn't come here straight. It first goes to the backend database, and because we already set a structure that please pull it, which is from chat, please pull it to this place. We want to see it here, which is what we have here. It pulls it from this structure. This structure pulls it for us. It's returning, right? It pulls it for us, and we have it here. Boom. That's simple. So like I said, our channel ID listens. Sorry, our use effect here listens to any change in channel ID. That channel ID means channel, that particular channel. Recognize it by an ID. If there's any change in that channel, please update. And when you update, save it in database, which is what we have here. So simple. It's just for you to understand the logic behind redux and all, how you put an information on the UI and it sends it to the redux store, and it's a new update on the state, and it's being stored in the state, and from the state it's being pulled to the database is being pulled to our UI. You see, it's all in circle. UI initiated the thing and the result came back to the UI. The end of the endpoint is still the UI, which is very, very brilliant, right? So like I said, guys, I think I've been able to explain a little bit further how you can actually use state management, put firebase database, and put Google authentication into a one use and can form an application for you. This is just an example of the previous videos I've done in making it, using it here rather, and seeing how it's been rendered and see how it's been utilized. I mean, this interface is a very lovely interface, very dark shade, dark mode, and it took me several hours to actually come up with this, but I'm grateful that I was able to come up with this, and I hope we appreciate it. Like I said, guys, I don't really observe failure. I observe more feedbacks. If you think there's any way I can get better, if you think there's any course you want me to study, please get back to me. Any part of Redux or React you don't understand, please give me feedback, give me a shout out, tell me what you want me to do, tell me exactly what part you don't understand, and I'll be glad, I'll be so glad to explain to you. Even if I don't know, I'll actually go and study to know what you want, because I believe that if we bring a problem and we solve it together, I will gain, you will also gain, and we both will become better at the end of the day. So please, guys, give me feedbacks. I really so beg for your feedbacks. Let me know where I'm going wrong. Let me know what I'm doing right. If you think I'm doing excellently well, please let me know. And how do you let me know? Give me likes, like the video. Click on the like button, subscribe, and make this channel a bigger one, please. Thank you all. Thank you for my subscribers. Thank you so much. You guys are wonderful. You guys have been so inspiring to me. You guys have made me always want to make videos, make content every now and then to share my knowledge and what I know, what I've come to know. So guys, thank you so much. Like I always say, no failure, only feedbacks. Thank you so much. Bye.